Tristan Blackwell stood in the doorway of his penthouse apartment, watching yet another nanny hurry toward the elevator with her bags already packed. That made 7 nannies in 4 months. 7 highly qualified, extensively vetted professionals who couldn't handle his 3-year-old twin daughters for more than a few weeks. "Mr. Blackwell, I'm sorry, but I simply can't continue," the woman said, her face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and relief. "Your daughters are there too much. The constant chaos, the refusal to follow any routine, the way they play off each other. I have 20 years of experience, and I've never encountered children so difficult," Tristan supplied, his jaw tight. "Unmanageable, impossible, I was going to say spirited," the nanny said diplomatically. "But yes, I'm not equipped for this. I'm sorry." After she left, Tristan walked back into his apartment, which looked like a tornado had passed through despite the cleaning service that came 3 times a week. His daughters, Lily and Rose, sat in the living room, surrounded by toys they dumped out of every container, their identical faces set in expressions of satisfaction at having driven away yet another caretaker. At 35, Tristan was the CEO of Blackwell Capital, one of the most successful investment firms in the country. He'd built his empire through control, precision, and the ability to predict and manage outcomes. But his daughters were the one variable he couldn't control. The one problem he couldn't solve with spreadsheets and strategy sessions. Their mother, his ex-wife Victoria, had walked out when the twins were 6 months old. "I didn't sign up for this," she'd said simply. "I wanted 1 baby, not 2. I wanted a family that fit my life, not a life consumed by constant crying and chaos. You can afford the help. I can't do this." She'd signed away her parental rights, sent divorce papers, and moved to Paris. Tristan hadn't heard from her in over 2 years, which was fine with him, but it left him alone with 2 toddlers who seemed to sense his desperation and exploit it at every opportunity. The twins were beautiful with dark hair like his and Victoria's green eyes, but they were also wild, unpredictable, and seemed to have an uncanny ability to break even the most experienced nannies. They refused to nap, fought every meal, and had perfected the art of synchronized tantrums that could reduce grown adults to tears. "Girls," Tristan said, trying to keep his voice calm. "That was very unkind. Miss Patricia was trying to help you." "Don't like her," Lily declared. "She smelled funny," Rose added. "You can't keep driving away everyone who tries to care for you," Tristan said, knowing even as he spoke that reasoning with 3-year-olds was futile. "Don't need her," Lily said. "We have Daddy, and Daddy has to work," Tristan replied, running a hand through his hair. "Which means I need someone to watch you during the day." The problem was that Tristan's job demanded long hours and constant attention. He tried to reduce his schedule, but his company was in the middle of several major acquisitions that required his personal oversight. He couldn't be a present father and a successful CEO simultaneously, no matter how much he wanted to be. That evening, after finally getting the twins to bed, Tristan called the premier nanny agency he'd been using. "I need someone who can start tomorrow," he told the director. "I don't care what it costs. I need someone who won't quit after 2 weeks at MR. "Blackwell," the director said carefully, "I've sent you 7 of our best nannies. All of them have come back with the same report. Your daughters are exceptionally difficult. Perhaps it's time to consider that the issue isn't the nannies." "What are you suggesting? Have you thought about consulting a child psychologist? Or perhaps looking into why the girls are so resistant to care? There might be underlying issues that need to be addressed." After hanging up, Tristan sat in his dark living room, surrounded by the expensive furniture and stunning city views that seemed increasingly hollow. He was failing. He could run a billion-dollar company, but he couldn't manage his own 3-year-old daughters. The next morning, Sunday, Tristan was working from home when he heard a knock at the door. He opened it to find a young woman in her late 20s standing there holding cleaning supplies. She had warm brown hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore simple jeans and a t-shirt with the building's janitorial service logo. "Hi," she said with a friendly smile. "I'm Madison Wells. I'm filling in for the regular cleaning service today. Is now a good time?" Before Tristan could answer, chaos erupted behind him. Lily and Rose had been playing quietly, but the sight of a stranger activated their usual pattern. They started screaming, throwing toys, and generally creating the mayhem that had become their signature greeting for anyone new. "I'm so sorry," Tristan said over the noise, his face flushing with embarrassment. "My daughters don't handle change well. Maybe you could come back later." "It's okay," Madison said calmly. She stepped into the apartment and crouched down to the twins' level, completely ignoring their tantrum. Instead, she started picking up the toys they'd thrown, humming softly to herself. The twins, apparently surprised that their performance hadn't gotten the desired reaction, gradually quieted down to watch this stranger, who wasn't trying to control them or lecture them or flee in terror. "These are beautiful toys," Madison said conversationally, addressing the toys rather than the children. "This teddy bear looks like he's been on many adventures, and these blocks are perfect for building castles." Lily, the bolder of the two, crept closer. "That's Mr. Snuggles. He's mine." "Mr. Snuggles is an excellent name," Madison replied, still not looking directly at the child. "I bet he's very brave." "He is," Lily confirmed. "He's not afraid of anything." "What about monsters?" Madison asked. "Especially not monsters," Rose piped up, joining her sister. "Good," Madison said, "because brave bears like Mr. Snuggles are very important for keeping little girls safe." Tristan watched in astonishment as his daughters, who had terrorized 7 trained nannies, gradually moved closer to this janitor, who was treating them like they were perfectly ordinary children rather than tiny tornadoes of destruction. "Would you and Mr. Snuggles like to help me tidy up?" Madison asked. "I bet between the 3 of us, sorry, for with Mr. Snuggles, we could make this room sparkle in no time." To Tristan's complete shock, his daughters started helping. They brought toys to Madison, who made a game out of sorting them into the right containers. She sang silly songs about cleaning up, made the toys talk to each other, and somehow turned the nightmare of cleanup time into an actual enjoyable activity. 45 minutes later. Not only was the apartment spotless, but the twins were sitting on the couch with Madison, listening to her tell a story about a brave teddy bear who went on adventures. "Who are you?" Tristan asked when Madison finally stood to leave. She laughed. "I told you. Madison Wells. I'm filling in for the regular cleaning service." "No, I mean, how did you do that?" "I've had professional nannies with decades of experience who couldn't get my daughters to cooperate for 5 minutes. You're a janitor, and you just made it look easy." Madison's smile faded slightly. "I'm a janitor who happens to be a single mother of twin boys. They're 5 now, and they've taught me that you can't control children. You can only work with them. Your daughters don't need more discipline or structure. They need someone who sees them as people, not problems to be managed." "You have twins?" Tristan asked, his mind racing. "I do, Mason and Marcus. They're with my mom today, which is why I picked up this extra shift. Single-parent life means working whenever you can." "Miss Madison, will you come back?" Lily asked, tugging on Madison's hand. "I don't know, sweetie," Madison said gently. "I was just filling in today." "Please," Rose added. "We'll be good." Madison looked at Tristan with an expression he couldn't quite read. "I'm sure your father will find you a wonderful new nanny soon." After Madison left, Tristan's mind wouldn't stop working. A single mother of twins who'd managed his daughters effortlessly, someone who clearly needed work and income, someone his daughters had actually responded to. He spent the next 2 hours tracking her down through the building management, finding out which janitorial company she worked for, and getting her phone number. "Hello," Madison answered when he called that evening. "Madison, this is Tristan Blackwell from apartment 4207.
Oh, hi.
Did I forget something?" "No, I want to offer you a job." There was a long pause. "Mr. Blackwell, I already have a job. I want to hire you as my daughter's nanny." Tristan said, "I know you're not a professional nanny, but you're clearly experienced with twins, and my daughters responded to you better than anyone else ever has. I'll pay you triple what you're making now with full benefits and flexible hours that work around your own children's schedules." "That's a generous offer," Madison said carefully. "But I don't have childcare credentials or formal training. You have something better. Actual experience and a natural way with children. My daughters need someone who sees them as children, not as problems. You did that instinctively. Please at least think about it." 3 days later, Madison started working as the twins' nanny. She brought her own boys with her, which had been one of her conditions. "If I'm caring for your daughters, my sons come, too," she'd said. "I won't be separated from them all day." Tristan agreed and watched in amazement as his chaotic household transformed. Madison didn't try to impose rigid schedules or strict rules. Instead, she worked with the children's natural rhythms, finding ways to channel their energy rather than suppress it. The twins and Madison's sons became instant friends, the four of them running through the apartment like a small army, but somehow without the destructive chaos that had characterized the twins' previous behavior. "How do you do it?" Tristan asked one evening, watching as Madison got all four children to actually sit down and eat dinner together without tears or tantrums. "I don't fight them," Madison explained. "Lily and Rose aren't bad children. They're smart children who figured out that being difficult is the fastest way to get attention from you. They've been testing every nanny to see who will actually stay, who will actually care enough to look past the behavior to see them. So, all this time they've been pushing people away on purpose. Children who've been abandoned by one parent and largely ignored by the other because of work tend to do that," Madison said gently. "They're scared that anyone new will leave too, so they make it happen on their terms. It gives them a sense of control." Tristan felt like he'd been punched. "I haven't ignored them. You've been physically present when you can be, which is admirable," Madison said. "But Mr. Blackwell, when was the last time you actually played with them? Not supervised their play, but got down on the floor and built blocks or had a tea party or pretended to be a dinosaur?" "I don't know," Tristan admitted. "I'm not good at that kind of thing. They don't need you to be good at it. They just need you to try to choose them over your phone, over work, over whatever else seems more important." Over the following weeks, Madison didn't just care for the twins. She taught Tristan how to be their father. She showed him that setting boundaries didn't have to mean being rigid. That play was a form of connection rather than a waste of time. That being present meant actually paying attention instead of just being in the same room. And slowly Lily and Rose changed. They were still energetic and spirited, but the destructive chaos settled into normal childhood exuberance. They stopped testing every interaction and started trusting that Madison and gradually their father would leave. 6 months after Madison started, Tristan realized two things simultaneously. His daughters were thriving and he'd fallen completely in love with their nanny. Madison was everything he'd thought he didn't need in his perfectly controlled life. She was messy and spontaneous, laughing when Mason spilled juice all over her, or when the twins decided to have an impromptu dance party in the middle of lunch. She brought warmth and chaos and actual life into his sterile apartment. But more than that, she taught him what being a father actually meant. Not managing or controlling, but connecting and choosing to be present even when it was inconvenient or uncomfortable. "Madison," Tristan said one evening after the children were all asleep, "can we talk?" "Of course," she said, looking up from where she was organizing the next day's activities. "I need to tell you something. And I'm afraid it might make things awkward. But I can't keep pretending anymore." He took a breath. "I've fallen in love with you, with your laughter and your patience, and the way you see my daughters not as problems, but as beautiful, complex people. You've changed my entire life." Madison was quiet for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "Tristan, I care about you, too, but I need to know something first. Do you love me, or do you love what I've done for your family? Because those are very different things." "I love you," Tristan said without hesitation. "You, Madison, the woman who makes terrible puns and sings off-key and treats my penthouse like it's just a home instead of a showpiece. I love that you've taught me how to be a father, but I love you as a person, not as a solution to my problems." Madison smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. "I love you, too. I've been fighting it for months because I was afraid you'd see me as just the help, someone convenient who came with child care expertise. But you've become my best friend. You've shown my sons what a good father looks like. You've made me feel valued, not despite being a single mother, but because of the strength it takes to be one." They married a year later, blending their families completely. The 4 children served as attendants with Lily and Rose as flower girls and Mason and Marcus as ring bearers. At the reception, all 4 kids gave a speech about how happy they were to finally be a real family. "We were always a real family," Madison said, pulling all 4 children into a hug. From that first day when I came to clean and decided to stay, family isn't about paperwork or official titles. It's about choosing each other every single day. Years later, when Lily and Rose were teenagers, they'd roll their eyes at the story of how many nannies they'd driven away before their father hired a janitor who didn't even know she was signing up for 4 kids instead of 2. But they'd also acknowledge the truth. That sometimes the right person for a job isn't the most qualified on paper, but the one who understands that children aren't problems to be solved, but people to be loved. That Madison hadn't handled them. She'd simply seen them for who they were and stayed anyway. And Tristan learned that true success wasn't measured in quarterly earnings or market dominance, but in 4 children laughing around a dinner table, in spontaneous dance parties that disrupted his work calls, in choosing presence over perfection and connection over control, because that's what no one could teach him until Madison arrived. That the most difficult children are often the ones who've been hurt most deeply. That chaos isn't always a problem to be managed, but sometimes a cry to be heard. And that family isn't built through authority and structure, but through staying even when it's hard, seeing even when it's easier to look away, and loving even when you're scared. You might not be enough. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that the right person sees children as gifts rather than problems, and that sometimes unconventional solutions work better than traditional expertise. Please like, share, and subscribe for more stories about blended families, learning to be present, and discovering that love and family come in unexpected packages. Comment below about someone who saw past behavior to recognize a cry for help, or about learning to be the parent your children needed rather than the one you thought you should be. Sometimes the people who can't be handled just need someone who's willing to stay.